is Kristen Druitz. So this is Cap 6. We're talking about the correct versus the incorrect form in our chosen movement, and I chose the deadlift. So the three faults that I chose were rounding the back, the head not being in neutral position, and your hips and shoulders not rising together when you come up. So first I'm going to talk about the good form and what it will include, and then I'll kind of go back to the incorrect form on why we need to correct it. So in the good form, it's going to include the bar path being a vertical line over your midfoot. So on the feet from the side, when you go down, you want to keep everything as close to your shin as possible, so the bar is going to go in a vertical line towards your midfoot. Your stance are going to be your heels hip width apart, so it's going to be more narrow than as if you were doing a squat. And then your feet, your whole feet are going to be on a flat, obviously a flat surface on the floor. People tend to wear Converse or shoes like that to have the best stance. And then your toes are going to be out about 15 degrees, so not too much, but a little bit outward. As far as your elbows go, you want to keep them locked before and during. You never want to bend your elbows when doing a deadlift. And then your chest, you want to keep your chest up at all times when doing a deadlift, because this keeps everything in a neutral position, which is what you want to do. And then your shins, like I said earlier, you want to keep the bar as close to your shins as possible. And this just helps with correct form and alignment for the rest of your body. And then the lockout, so at the very end, when you come up, you want to you want to lock your hips and your knees, but you don't want to hyperextend. You don't want to overdo it at the top because that'll cause injury as well. So for deadlifts, you want to start with really light weights if you're kind of just getting into it. I started with no weights when I first started doing the deadlifts, just so I could make sure I had the correct form down to avoid injury, because a lot of people will talk about injuries in their lower back. And you want to get the form correct and then slowly but surely add weights as time goes by. So for rounding your back, the fact of the matter is your spine is not a joint. You cannot consciously bend certain parts of the spine. So the spine is interconnected by a series of facets. So your spine should be in a neutral position at all times to prevent injury. And that's probably the most important one to me, because I notice people hurt their lower backs a lot. My best friend, she can't do deadlifts because it hurts her back so much. So a lot of people will tend to do this when doing a deadlift, and you want to make sure you keep it at a neutral position at all times to avoid any injury. And then your head being in a neutral position. Again, people have different theories with this, but some people will tend to look up with their chin up or look down. Your head should be in line with the rest of your body. So you don't want to look up, but you don't want to look at your feet either. So when you're going, you start here, your head's going to be with it. So like this, and when you come up, you'll be looking straight. And this is hard because at a gym, you're surrounded by mirrors. People will tend to look at their form, but you want to make sure you keep your head in a neutral position. So at the very end, you'll be looking, yes, up at the mirror, but initially you should not be. And then my last one was your hips and shoulders do not rise together is another fault. So you want to make sure when you come back up, go over here, when you come back up, everything is one simultaneous movement. Your hips and shoulders should move the bar up simultaneously. So if one is moving before the other, then you're risking compensation for the one that's behind as far as injuries go as well. Yeah, thanks.